to Trey Zwicker?
I am Trey's uncle, Amanda's brother.
Um, how often had you seen Trey throughout his life?
Throughout Trey's life, I've been very close with him, excluding the 4 years that I was before. I reconnected with my sister and her family, and me and Trey developed a very strong relationship.
How old was he when you came back from the Marine Corps?
I'm not exactly sure. I would say he was 7 or 8.
And do you live in Louisville currently?
I do.
Okay, where do you work?
I work at Bonefish Grill on South Hirschborn.
How often had you seen Trey in, say, the year leading up to his death?
I usually stayed around Trey and Amanda's family quite often, but that specific year, we stayed close together until I learned that she had been back with Big Josh Galvin.
And why did that make a difference to you?
I really didn't think it was Josh Gallagher was a good person, or that it was okay for my sister to be around him. I thought he was unsafe, and I didn't want to be around him, so I stopped coming around for a while.
Okay. Did you go over there the night of May 10th?
I did by chance. I came over.
Can you tell the jury about that? How did you end up there, and what happened while you were there?
Well, I kind of felt guilty that I hadn't seen my sister in a while, and Mother's Day came and passed, and a couple other things, so I planned on seeing her at her work, and I kept putting it off, and then I decided I would drive over to her house, and if she was there, I would stop by. If not, I would go see a different friend. Well, I came into the driveway, and as I pulled in, Big Josh was in the driveway, and he gave me a really dirty, scary look as I pulled in the driveway. I rolled down the window, and he realized who I was, so he, changed his entire demeanor to very welcoming. After that, got out of the car and said hello to everybody, walked in, talked to my sister and my nephew, and they were having a family cookout. And my sister was, preparing food and such. We hung out for a few minutes, talked, and after that, we decided we'd play a game of basketball. Me, Josh, Trey, and little Josh as well.
Did they have a basketball goal in the yard?
There was basketball in the yard, yes. Now, we played basketball for 20 minutes or so, and started one game, finished that one, and then we decided we'd play a 21 game of tips, which basically means first to 21 wins. But if you get tipped, which means somebody misses a shot and you put their shot back in, you go back to 0. Now, if this happens 3 times, then you're out of the game. So we were playing, and Trey was out of the game. I had been tipped once or twice, and all of us were. And at some point during the game, there was an opportunity for Josh Young to tip Josh Gallagher out of the game. It was his 3rd tip. And when this happened, he hesitated and deliberately did not put his father out of the game.
Can we approach the bench, Judge?
Yes, come on. So when that occurred, when he deliberately missed the shot to put his father out of the game, his father became extremely disappointed and upset and approached him, and they were, basically chest to chest, and he was saying, "You never show mercy for anybody. You don't take it easy on me." There was some foul language involved. You take them out if you have to. And for me, it was very aggressive and a little shocking, so I kind of stepped back and was just watching the interaction between the two. And in my opinion, I didn't feel...
Stop, come on. Yeah. Okay.
I understand the objection or not. Can you move on to what happened to you with your hand that night?
So we continued to play a little basketball after that, even though that occurred. And at some point I was being tipped, or somebody was tipping, and I blocked a shot, and my hand got caught in the basketball net, which was a chain basketball net. And I cut my hand pretty significantly. And shortly after that, I went inside, and we got towels and stuff to keep it from bleeding. At this point, the meal was almost ready, and I decided that I needed to go to the hospital and get stitches because I had to work the next afternoon.
Okay. And do you work with food?
I work with food. I work in the kitchen, so it wasn't, Amanda was like, "You're not going to stay and eat?" And I said, "No, I need to get this taken care of so I can go to work tomorrow."
Do you remember about what time it was that you left?
It was beginning to become dark. It was around dusk, so I'm thinking around 8:30 or 9, somewhere in that area.
When was the last time you saw Trey?
This was the last time that I saw Trey. He was a little disappointed that I was leaving because it had been a while since he had seen me. He walked me to the door. He always walked me to the door, or to my car. And as we were leaving, I thought about taking him with me, just so we could hang out a little bit more. And it crossed my mind that maybe he'd rather not sit in the hospital for 4 hours, so I didn't ask him to go, but we gave high fives, and I gave him an elbow because of my hand. I told him I'd see him later because I intended on coming back after I left the hospital.
Did you come back?
I did not.
Why was that?
When I left the hospital, Amanda had called me, and I returned the call, and she told me not to come back over.
Did she give a reason?
She didn't have a reason specifically. She said she was going to go to bed, and things were dying down. And I said, "Are you sure? I wanted to come over and hang out." She said, "No, don't worry about it. Go ahead and go home."
Did you hear anyone in the background?
I did hear someone in the background.
Did you know who that was?
I did not know exactly who that was, but there was definitely a man's voice in the background.
Do you know what time it was that phone call occurred?
I believe it was around 10:30 to 10:45.
When did you find out that Trey had been killed?
I did not know that Trey was killed until probably 5:30 or 6 o'clock the next day. I was at work.
Judge, may we approach?
Yes, come on.
After you learned of Trey's murder, did you go back to Vim Drive eventually?
Eventually, I went back. I actually stayed at work and worked a few hours just because I knew that things were crazy and there was a lot of drama and my work needed me, so I stayed there until 8:30. And then after that, I went to Vim Drive.
When you got there, who was present?
There were lots of people all around. I know that Amanda and Josh, big and little, were there. My mother, some other family members. There was people all over the place, a lot of police.
And I'm sorry, I forgot to ask this. The night of the cookouts, were people drinking?
Yes, people were drinking.
And were people smoking pot?
Yes, people were smoking pot.
What was Amanda's state of intoxication or lack thereof?
I would say she was minimally intoxicated.
And do you know if she was drinking or smoking pot?
She was definitely smoking weed, drinking. I never saw her drink, and I know my sister not to drink very much or often.
The following night when you were at Vim Drive, what was her demeanor?
She was very distraught and, in shock, as most of us were. I think she held it together quite well, considering, but I believe that she was definitely sad and surprised and shocked at everything that happened.
Did you notice anything different about her physical appearance, specifically her neck?
I do remember seeing marks on her neck as Big Josh, Amanda, and I were sitting on the back porch after everyone had gone. And as I was leaving, she was standing in the doorway. Big Josh was directly behind her. I noticed the marks, and I asked her, "Is everything okay? You got bruises on your neck. Are you okay?" She insisted that they weren't bruises, that they were hickeys. They looked like bruises to me.
Were you at the funeral?
I was.
And where did you sit during the funeral service?
I sat in the front row on the right-hand side with Amanda, Big Josh, Little Josh, and myself.
Did you notice the defendant's demeanor during the funeral?
I did.
And what was it?
Blank, null, and void.
Did he cry?
Not that I saw, no.
No other questions.
Cross-examination.
On the night of May the 10th, Amanda called you. Is that correct?
Yes.
After you had left?
When I was leaving the hospital, she called me.
Okay.
I had a missed call as I walked outside.
You estimated the time of that call to be?
10:30, 10:45, I don't know the exact minute.
And what telephone number did you call her from?
My cell phone number,
And what is that number?
533-9640.
Do you recall the length of that conversation?
It was short, less than 10 minutes. I would say 5.
And this was the conversation where you were told no need to come back over, is that right?
Exactly.
When you first arrived, Joshua Gowker was outside, correct?
In the driveway.
Scowling.
At my car as I drove in, yes.
Appeared to recognize who you were.
Only after I rolled my windows down, my car windows are tinted, and he could not see me.
You stayed at the house that night for how long?
I would say approximately 3 or 4 hours.
Amanda is drinking continuously through this time?
No.
Or-
I never saw Amanda drink that afternoon. I know that other people were there, and Big Josh was drinking. I believe a guy named John was there. He was the most intoxicated of everyone. I myself did not drink.
Okay. And you had indicated a moment ago that Amanda appeared minimally intoxicated.
Yes, I'm positive that there was smoking of pot, but she was cooking dinner. She did not appear to me to be unfunctional.
You indicated that you ate there, is that right?
I did not eat
You
there.
did not eat
No.
there. Did you see what food was prepared?
No, actually, after I'd cut myself playing basketball, we were on the patio. I rinsed it out with some water. Amanda brought me some towels, and we kind of hung around and talked about it. And then the food was basically finished, and I was getting ready to leave, and Amanda came outside and said, "You sure you don't want to stay and eat? You sure?" I said, "No, because this is very important for me to be at work." So,
You observed her cooking, right?
yes.
You don't know what she was cooking?
I can't recall exactly what she was cooking, no.
They were grilling out back?
Most of what she was doing was cooking inside. There was a grill out back, yes.
And this basketball goes in the back.
Yes.
That's all I have, Judge.
Redirect.
No, Your Honor.
Any questions from the jury, Mr. McFarland? May we release this witness? Mr. McFarland, thank you very much. You're free to go. You can stay or go. Your call. Commonwealth's next witness.
Commonwealth calls Amanda McFarland.
Amanda McFarland. Oh, for the jury, we put some more paper out. If you need more paper, there's extra paper and extra pens.
Your Honor, somebody.
Name question. Okay. Let us suggest that the Commonwealth go through those issues with her early on. Ms. McFarland, come on up to the witness stand. I'm going to place you under oath before you have a seat. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be truthful?
Yes.
Thank you. Have a seat. Be comfortable. I encourage you to sit up close to the microphone. It's adjustable for your height. Keep your voice up good and loud so we can all hear your testimony.
Can you tell the jury your name, please?
Amanda McFarland.
And will you scoot up just a little bit for us? Thank you very much.
Have you gone by other names during the course of this investigation?
Yes.
And what were those names?
Campbell and McFarland and Gowker.
I want to go through the whole history of your relationship with the participants in this case. So starting back when you were young. Well, are you from Louisville?
Yes.
Where did you grow up?
Them Drive.
When did you meet Josh Gowker?
When I was 14.
And was he in the neighborhood?
Yes.
Okay. What was your relationship initially?
Just friends.
When did you meet Terry Zwicker?
Around the same time.
At one point, did you start dating one of them?
Terry Zwicker.
And did you have Trey as a result?
Yes.
How old were you?
I was 16 when I gave birth to Trey.
Where did you live then?
When I gave birth, I lived with my mother in Fairdale.
What happened to your relationship with Terry?
It dissolved.
After you all broke up, where did you move? Who did you end up dating?
I lived on Cherry Lane in Fairdale when the relationship between Terry Zwicker and I split. Eventually, I ran into Josh Gowker at the place I worked. He came in as a customer. We started speaking, dating. Eventually, we ended up getting married at the age of 21. We, as a couple, moved in with his mother on Vim Drive. Both of our children lived with us there. He shared custody with his ex-wife, Angie Young.
And was his child the defendant, Josh Young?
Yes.
Okay. How long did you all live together?
Off and on, a very short time. That marriage, we went our separate ways 7 months into the marriage. I then moved in with my father in Bardstown, Kentucky, and I believe he went back and forth between Kentucky and Michigan and eventually found himself in prison.
Was his father from Michigan?
His adopted father is from Michigan.
And is his adopted father where he gets the Gowker name?
Yes.
Okay. Did his mother live in Louisville?
Yes.
All right. And were they married at some point and split
Yes.
up? Was your relationship to some extent troubled even back then?
Yes.
Okay. And was there an incident with a balcony?
The day that I left Josh Gowker the first time, we were at a hotel, and he wanted me to start drinking early in the morning. I'm not a drinker. I did not want to. The morning escalated into a fight where I wanted to call my brother to come get me. He was home from the Marines, and I knew that he would come pick me up and take me somewhere more comfortable. He didn't like the idea. He went to the restroom. I took out the front door of the hotel. He chased me down, grabbed a hold of me, and held me over, pushed me over the edge of the balcony, half my body leaning over. And he was a lady came out of the hotel room, a cleaning lady, and she asked if I needed help. He let go of me and said to sit up and pretend like we're a happy married couple. As soon as he let go, I ran behind the lady. She was a large lady. She was about as wide as the balcony was. So I squeezed behind her. She pushed me into the hotel room. She locked the door. The police were called. He ran.
After that incident, did you see him again?
Not for 10 years when he was released from prison.
During those 10 years, at the time, what did you believe had happened to the state of your marriage with Josh Gowker?
In 2001, he mailed me divorce papers from prison, a self-help divorce. I signed them, returned them to the address on the envelope. I moved afterwards. I assumed that that was the end of our marriage. I believed wholeheartedly that it was dissolved. There was no more relationship. And I moved on with my life.
And where did you get the last name Campbell?
It came from my second husband.
And when did that marriage occur?
January 9th of 2009.
And did that marriage last?
No, it shortly ended, just a matter of a couple months.
At the time you were married to Mr. Campbell, you believed that you were divorced from Josh Gowker?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And during these years while he was gone, could you tell the jury about your custody relationship with Terry Zwicker as to Trey?
We had 50-50 joint custody. We shared all responsibilities 50%.
Typically, when did he switch houses?
At one time, it was every Wednesday to Wednesday. Then it moved from Sunday to Sunday.
And did you have another child?
Yes, I did.
What was her name?
Mackenzie Savage.
Did you have a similar custody situation with her father?
The exact same schedule.
Were the kids at your house together?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury about Josh Gowker re-entering your life?
He contacted me at my place of employment.
Which
at
was?
McDonald's. He informed me that we were still married because he failed to sign the divorce papers. I met him. We went downtown, checked, and sure enough, it did say that we were still married. So from there, it opened a line of communication. We started talking. He sincerely apologized for any wrongdoing he ever caused in my life. I felt like he was sincere. He actually shed tears. And so from there, we began seeing each other.
And what month was this that he first contacted you?
It was sometime in the fall. It could have been August or October.
Of what year?
2010.
Did he eventually start staying at your house?
Eventually, yes.
And do you know what month that would be?
Late November.
Of 2010?
Mhm.
How did that relationship go?
Everything was great in the beginning. The first couple of months, he was a perfect gentleman. He seemed like a changed person. one night he went out to his aunt's house where he was living. He borrowed my son's phone. He accidentally pocket dialed me from the phone. I overheard the conversation he was having with his cousin, Cassie. He was saying I was not important. At the time I was pregnant. It was something we both wanted in that moment, I thought. When he returned to my home, I questioned him about it. He pretended like it was just something he was saying in front of her. That's when he first showed his more violent side. He actually grabbed me by the arm, which startled me, and I made the decision to end the pregnancy.
Do you remember what month the pregnancy ended?
I got the abortion in January 2011.
Were you all broken up at that time?
Yes,
Where was he staying?
his cousin Cassie's, in an apartment complex his grandmother owned.
During this time, did he sometimes go to Michigan?
Yes.
Where did Cassie live?
She lived in the apartment complex on Preston Highway that his grandmother owned. She eventually was evicted. So that put Cassie and her family and Josh Gauker and his son, Josh Young, out. They rented a house 2 doors down from me, and the bunch lived there.
What was your address on Bim Drive?
1356,
And what was Cassie's address?
1360, 2 doors down.
Who lived in Cassie's house?
Cassie, John, their 2 children, Josh Gauker and Josh Young.
And what are Cassie's children's names?
It's been a long time. It's Michael and I can't even remember the daughter's name at this time.
How was your relationship with Cassie and her family?
Cassie seemed friendly. I tried to help her out whenever she needed anything.
Was there a period where she didn't have water?
Yes.
And what did you do for her?
I allowed them to come over to my house, do laundry, take baths. Didn't ask for anything in return.
During the spring of 2011, what was the status of your relationship with Gauker?
It was still off and on.
Okay, so after he put his hands on you, you all broke up, you got the abortion, there were times when you all were seeing each other again?
Yes.
Okay. Was there a time where you were fully back together, in your opinion?
2 days before Mother's Day, May 10th, or May 8th, that Sunday, I can't remember the exact date.
Okay, and I don't want to jump that far ahead again. During the spring, say in April, was there an incident where you all had a fight that was apparent to the neighborhood?
Yes, he was living with his cousin Cassie. Cassie's car was broke down in my driveway. And my car was having issues. I needed a battery for my car. Cassie let me borrow the battery from her car to put into mine so I could go to work that day. Josh was the one who changed the battery out and agreed that he would have my battery checked while I was at work that day. I came home from work. He took my battery and put it back into my car and put Cassie's back into her car. It still wouldn't start. He wanted to put Cassie's back into my car, borrow my car, and go to the gas station and buy alcohol, or to the liquor store and buy liquor. He was already drinking. My vehicle was in my mother's name. She also was the one who paid the insurance on it. I used that as an excuse to not let him drive my car because he was drinking. He refused to take no as an answer. He had that tool he used to remove the battery, and he kept tapping on the top of the car. The car was not paid for. I was still making payments on it. I asked him to please stop putting dents in it. He refused to stop. He just constantly, at a steady pace, pretty calm as well, and just kept tapping the top of the car.
Were you inside the car?
Yes, ma'am, and my daughter as well.
How old was your daughter?
8 at the time.
Okay.
The doors were locked. I eventually got fed up with it and opened the door, locked it behind me, and pushed Josh off of the car. He shoved me back. I fell against the side of the house, and I yelled for Kenzie to stay in the car and keep the doors locked. I'd be right back. I ran into the house to lock the door so I could call the police on him. He shoved his hand through the window, unlocked the door, and started after me. My daughter walks through the back door, yells, "Mom." Josh raises his hands up and allows the both of us to leave. I grabbed a blue pole from in the kitchen that I used to hold the hood of the car up and ran with it. Eventually, when he was putting his hand inside the window, I did hit his hand with it.
So did you and Mackenzie flee through the neighborhood?
Yes, we actually ran across the street and stood behind my neighbor's house.
All right. So on May 8th, after all this, after he's moving back in Louisville to Michigan, he comes, I assume, comes back sometime before May 8th, and you all got back together, you said?
We started speaking to each other again on friendly terms.
Okay, tell the jury about that.
That was Mother's Day. That was a Sunday. My son worked. He wanted to have a Mother's Day cookout at his house. I agreed. My son called. I went and picked him up, and we went over to Josh and Cassie and John's house. My cousin Walter walked by, Walter Hudson. He ended up cooking the food. We ate. Josh Young and some of the neighborhood boys went down to see one of the girls in the neighborhood. My son remained with me. I asked him if he wanted to go with them. He said no, he wanted to stay and hang out with me on Mother's Day. I could tell something wasn't quite right. He seemed to have a little bit of tension built up when I referred to going down there with Josh and the boys. He just didn't want to. He wanted to stay with me, so that was fine. We hung out for a little while. Eventually we went back home, got ready for bed, our normal routine.
Did anything of note occur on Monday, May 9th?
That is when I got overwhelmed at work. Josh would constantly text, want to know what was going on, just constantly harass me, call my phone, text my phone. If I didn't answer my phone, he would call the work line. It got to be an overwhelming situation between him and my boss being in the store, trying to keep me focused and do my job. So I ended up quitting. I left. I went home.
How long have you worked there?
17 years.
Are you in fact back with McDonald's
Yes.
now? So what happened after you quit?
Well, when I was still at the McDonald's, I actually called and told him, I can't do this. I can't talk to you. He encouraged my decision to go ahead and quit and come home. He swore up and down he would be there for me. He'd help me pay the bills and keep everything going in the household. So I went home. I cried a little bit about it because I grieved. Just like it was the only job I ever had, or my first job I ever had, the longest. It actually hurt my feelings for it to end the way it did. My employer actually called me, and we were going to have a meeting and talk about my decision and reinstate my employment. I had made a hasty decision and didn't think it through, and we were going to talk about it and fix the problem the next day. Josh walked into the house and heard me having that conversation, and he got really upset about it. He took it that I didn't believe in him or trust him that he could help me.
Judge, let me approach.
Ms. McFarland, the issue is that there are two Joshes involved in the case, and so we don't want the jury to be confused about which Josh you were talking about. And if you are comfortable doing it, could you refer to them by last name?
Yes.
Okay. Continue your story.
Josh Gowker was offended by the thought of me going back to McDonald's. So I called my employer back and canceled the meeting.
And did Trey work at that McDonald's with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did he learn of this turn of events?
When he came home from school that day, I informed him what decision I made, and I left it up to him if he wanted to remain employed there or if he wanted to quit. he decided he wanted to stay, and I supported his decision in staying.
And did you all do anything of note on that Monday night?
We had a cookout at my house. He tried to raise my spirits.
Oh, and I'm sorry,
Josh
I don't mean to
Gowker.
be, no, this would be Monday, May 9th. Did you, in fact, have cookouts Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday? Oh, okay, sorry.
You have to answer verbally.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you had a cookout Monday night as well?
Yes.
Okay. And did anything unusual happen at that cookout?
I don't recall anything unusual.
Okay. Moving on to Tuesday, May 10th. Did anything occur during the day?
When I woke up that morning, I was still a little depressed, a little down. He wanted to go for a ride and go to the park, feed the ducks. Josh Gowker.
Can we get a clarification when she says he who we're talking about?
Josh Gowker. So we got into my car and we went for a ride to the McNally Lake Park. On the way to the park,
And are we talking about Tuesday, the day before the cookout where your brother came?
that evening was the cookout.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're not getting confused on the dates.
So again, on the way to McNally Lake Park to feed the ducks, we stopped and seen a house for rent. We stopped and looked at the house. The reason we even stopped and looked at the house is because Josh refused to consider my home as
Miss
Josh
McFarland.
Gallagher.
Okay, thank you.
Refused to consider my home our family home. I was already looking towards foreclosure. So he looked at a house, Josh Gowker and I. It had a 2-bedroom, or had 3 bedrooms in it. We called the realtor. He had mentioned to the realtor we only had 2 children. When we left that property, I asked him, I said, why did you refer to our family as 2 children? Is Josh Young not going to be a part of the household? Will he not be living with us? And he blew it off as the boys can share a room. There's no reason that the landlord needs to know. We proceed to the park. He makes a few phone calls. Josh Gallagher makes phone calls to his son, Josh Young's school, to verify that he has turned in custody papers to the school. We threw a football around a couple of times, made our way back to the house. Around this time, it was close to 2. I pushed the coffee table out at my home and let the recliner out. I seen Trey's book bag under the recliner.
Okay, and I don't mean to cut you off, but did this all actually occur Wednesday, May 11th?
Yes, come up, please.
Yes. I'm getting my...
Okay, so just in order to keep the story chronologically correct, let's move to the cookout where your brother came the night of, well, what night would that have been? The cookout where your brother came?
I believe it was Tuesday night.
Okay, and that would be May 10th?
Yes.
All right. Can you tell the jury about the cookout where that Jeremy McFarland attended?
Well, we just had a cookout at my house. My brother came, Josh Gowker and his son, Josh Young, his cousin, her boyfriend, their children, my neighbors from the other side and their child, and some of the neighborhood boys, and I don't remember which ones it were. They all came over. We cooked out. The boys played basketball while I cooked.
Okay. What were you cooking?
Hamburgers and hot dogs, corn and potato chips, just the basic small barbecue.
What was everybody doing while you were cooking?
Playing basketball. At different times they would play basketball. Some of the kids would wander around and go down to the creek, the ditch next to the house.
In your backyard, how would people leave your yard to get to the ditch?
They have to walk out the driveway. I go up to the Vim Drive, walk down 3 houses to the ditch bank.
And were you aware that people did that during the
Yes.
cookout? Okay. At some point, did your brother leave?
Yes, during the basketball game, my brother had cut his hand open on the chain basketball net.
Do you remember what time you all ate?
It was at rather late. It was, I want to say, between 7 and 8.
Was it light, dark? What was the...
It was not dark.
What happened after you all ate?
After we ate, my children was getting ready, doing their normal routine. I offered to let Cassie's children take a shower. She declined, so my daughter took a bath first. She got out, got dressed. My son was second. He got out.
Do you remember what time they took baths?
I'm thinking around 9 o'clock it began. It was our normal routine. That's about the time we always started winding down for the evening and cleaning up.
And do you remember when people left the party?
As soon as they got done eating,
Was it before your children took a bath?
yes,
Okay. Was anybody left there?
no.
Okay. Who was the last to leave, if you remember?
I don't remember.
Okay.
My brother was the first person to leave because he cut his hand.
Where, can you describe the layout of your house?
It's 2-story. Upstairs is my children's rooms, hallway between the 2 rooms. Downstairs is my room on the front of the house. The living room is next to it on the front of the house. Behind my bedroom is the bathroom. Behind the bathroom is a spare room where I kept the workout equipment, the tanning bed. Behind that room was the kitchen, and then the kitchen had the back door.
Just a moment, please. Let me mark these exhibits. Show you what I've marked as Commonwealth Exhibits 82 through 91. See if you recognize them.
This is the front of my house, the back of my house, back view of some of the yard in the back of the house, our garage, my car. Actually, that's my mother's car that I ended up taking possession of. This is the front of our house. This is my kitchen. This is the entrance to the living room. This is the living room. This is the living room.
Do those fairly and accurately represent what your house inside and outside looks like in May of 2011?
Yes.
Honor, the Commonwealth has introduced 82 to 91.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Introduced into evidence.
Publish. This is 82. Is that what you identified as the front of your house?
Yes.
And that's 1356 Vim Drive?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, 83. And what is that?
The back porch, the back of my house.
Is that where the cookout occurred?
Yes.
84. Is this a shot of more of
Yes,
the back
ma'am.
porch? 85. I don't know, it's dark in that photo, but is that the basketball goal where your family was playing?
Yes, ma'am.
Is this corner right here the porch for the patio? The
Yes,
patio
ma'am.
where the cookout occurred? In this photo, which is 87, can you, whose house is this?
Cassie and John's, where Josh and Young and Gowker lived.
So there was one house in between you.
Yes, ma'am.
What room is that?
That's the back of the house, the kitchen.
Would that back door go to the patio where the cookout occurred?
Yes, ma'am.
89. Sorry, let's start. Can you tell what that is?
It's the entrance from the to the living room from the kitchen.
Okay, so the person taking the photo would have been standing,
Was standing in the kitchen.
Which room is this?
It's the living room.
Again, closer view. Is that the same room?
Yes, ma'am.
And is this the front door?
Yes, ma'am.
What's on the couch?
My daughter's sleeping. Her bed clothing. She stayed on the couch that night.
Where did your children have bedrooms upstairs?
Yes, ma'am.
And what were their sleeping arrangements typically?
They had their own bedrooms. They slept in their own room. Occasionally, my son would stay in my daughter's bedroom floor. They were both my children were scared of the dark. They like to hang out with each other.
Would they sleep? Did they turn off the lights at night?
No, ma'am. The bedroom lights would be off. The hallway light would be on.
Why was that?
Both my children were scared of the dark.
That night, do you recall seeing Mackenzie get out of the bath?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall seeing Trey get out of the bath?
Yes, ma'am.
What did they do after their baths?
They sat on the couch and ate a bag of chips
Do you
together.
remember what time that was?
It was after 9:30, before 10.
What were you doing during this period?
Cleaning up from the barbecue, putting food away.
Who else was at the house?
At that time, it was just me and my two children. Josh Gowker would come and go between outside, inside to his residence 2 doors down.
Okay. Did you all have intentions of anything occurring that night?
Yes, ma'am. He was going to stay the night.
Where were his, say, his clothes, his toothbrush, those sorts of things? Where did he keep those?
1360 them Drive at Cassie, where Cassie and John stayed.
Okay. At some point, did you believe your children had gone to bed?
Yes, ma'am.
Where were they sleeping at that time?
10 o'clock was bedtime. Both my children went to their own bedrooms. Eventually, Kenzie had gotten up and asked me if she could sleep on the couch. It was hot in her room. I agreed. We made the pilot on the couch.
Okay. And at some point, did you see Trey again?
I went back outside on the patio. It was a nice temperature night. I was sitting out there with a candle lit, listening to the radio. Around 10:07, my son went to take a step out the back door fully dressed.
And why are you so specific with your time?
My cell phone was in my hand. I looked at it, trying to figure out why he was up. I knew it was around his bedtime. He'd already been told it's time for bed. He steps out of the house fully dressed. That brings some attention to you as a parent.
Was there a light out back?
There were. I had floodlights on 3 out of the 4 corners of my home.
And had you done something to the lights at that time?
Josh suggested that we turn the lights off. Gowker suggested that we unscrew the lights. The reason we did so is because if you move, it triggers the lights.
Was he with you at this time that Trey stepped out?
Yes.
And so you said you were sitting there listening to the radio. Was he sitting with you?
Yes.
What happened when Trey stepped out? How was he dressed?
He had a dark T-shirt on, dark jeans, and his shoes, dark black shoes.
Was anyone else on the porch with you all?
No.
Was anyone with Trey?
No.
What happened after he stepped out?
I got up, went to the house, followed him up the steps. He went back in his room. I complained about him being up. It was a school night. It was past his bedtime. He needed to get himself back into that bed.
Okay. And where were you standing when you were complaining to him?
In the doorway of the upstairs entrance.
What did you do at that time?
Afterwards, I went back outside.
Did you receive a phone call from your brother?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall, was that before or after you saw Trey come out?
After.
How long did you and Josh Gowker sit on the patio?
I can't exactly remember, but I feel like it was about an hour. Around 11 o'clock, we made our way inside to the bedroom.
Okay. How long were you all in the bedroom?
I don't recall.
Well, and I'm sorry to ask this, but what did you all do in the bedroom?
We were intimate.
Why did you leave the bedroom?
He wanted to go to the gas station. Josh Gowker wanted to go to the gas station and buy cigarettes.
Did you both smoke?
Yes.
What kind of cigarettes did you smoke?
I smoked Marlboro Lights,
What did he smoke?
mostly Marlboro Reds. He would smoke anything he could get his hands on.
How did you get to the gas station?
Drove.
And which gas station did you go to?
Circle K on Preston Highway and Gilmore Lane.
Did you just recently review a video
Yes,
of
ma'am.
that gas station? And did you recognize yourselves and Josh Gowker in the video?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, at this point, the Commonwealth moves to play the video.
Okay. Any objection? We're going to introduce it into evidence.
Can we approach on this?
Yes. been able to persuade the attorneys to let you all go to lunch. Is that okay? All right, lunch break. 11:45 to 1:15. Remember your admonition. Be in the hallway ready to come back in at 1:15. All rise to the departing jury. Jury's out of the courtroom. Lunch recess.